Hey guys, and welcome back to Knucklehead TV. It's been a minute since I've released a video, but everybody's got their own stuff going on with COVID-19 and everything like that. So it's been a stretch since I've made a video, but I just got a brand new PC and I've got it set up, and I thought this was the perfect time to release a new video. Because of that, and also there's just been so much huge Star Wars news that's come out recently, and I knew I just had to comment on all of that. Otherwise, what's the point of having a YouTube channel if I don't cover things like the Disney Investors Day? Now, this video is pretty unedited, as you can probably tell. I'm still setting everything up with my PC, so I don't really have editing software right now. I'm playing this game live, and as I'm sure you can tell, I got a pretty sweet mod right there. I've modded this game completely, and I likely will be making a video showcasing all of my different mods that I have after this one. But for this video, I would like to basically just dig into all of the Star Wars news that dropped at the Disney Investors Day a couple days ago. The first thing being the biggest thing, the thing that you guys know that I've wanted more than anything, the thing that most people are excited for, as opposed to everything else, and that is the fact that Hayden Christensen is returning as Darth Vader in the Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off series. Now, it does say Darth Vader, not Anakin Skywalker, which is a little bit weird, but I'll get into sort of what I think about that in a second. But some of his haters have come out, just because of this announcement, and he's always had his haters, so it's no surprise. But it is kind of embarrassing that after all these years, they can't just let people be happy, his fans be happy, and let him have this, or at least try to say, you know what, I'll give you a second chance, maybe with the right script and the right direction. You might be the perfect choice for this role. But so yeah, it's kind of embarrassing that some people are trying to spread prequel hate. Even some news sources like LAD Bible, they used like a couple of like tweets that had like one or two likes, trying to say fans are upset that he is returning, even though the official Star Wars tweet saying that he was returning had more than 2 times as many likes than any other announcement that they made that day. And that's just insane. So clearly you can tell most fans are absolutely ecstatic for his return, whether that is somebody who's like a legitimate fan of his, whether that's casual audience members who, they don't really see greatness or, him as bad. They just see Anakin Skywalker, the dude that played a young Darth Vader. Or even people who weren't necessarily a fan of his but are excited to see him get a second shot. So overwhelmingly, the response is fantastic, and for me, I love so much about Star Wars, but Anakin Vader and his portrayal is the thing that I love the absolute most. And obviously, Ewan McGregor and Obi-Wan. That's his Obi-Wan is probably my second favorite character in that whole time period, Revenge of the Sith, and between A New Hope and Order 66 and everything like that. This is honestly just like a dream piece of content for me as a fan. So I'm super ecstatic for that. I can't wait to see what other pieces of information come out about this series. But the few pieces that we have so far are interesting, not necessarily in a good sort of way, but we'll see how things pan out. But firstly, I would like to point out that everywhere is listing him as Darth Vader, not necessarily Anakin, which I'm not really worried that he's not going to appear as Anakin in flashbacks, because otherwise, what would be the point of bringing him back? Anybody could play a burnt up limbless guy. Anybody could play a guy in a suit, if it was just Vader. And obviously James Earl Jones will likely be doing the voice. I really, really hope so. But, if you're bringing Hayden back, it's to play Anakin Skywalker. But it would be really awesome if he was playing Vader as well, which it seems to be obviously the case since they're calling him Darth Vader. And that's going to be really immersive and really awesome. But So, yes, I really hope we do get more of these Clone Wars flashbacks. At first, it seems like that was the main reason why he was coming back. All of the places that were leaking the information that he was coming back were saying, he's going to be in the clone armor. He's going to be there for Clone Wars flashbacks. They didn't say much about him playing Vader. So that's kind of interesting. But the guys at Kessel Run Transmissions, who are some of the more credible guys that I follow, made a video after the announcement that he's coming back saying about how they reported that he was going to play Anakin in the clone armor. Well, it was about something else, but they noted that in the video. And they didn't seem to think that him playing Vader, as every media outlet was saying, means that he's not playing Anakin. So I don't think we have anything to worry about there. And I think it is very cool that he likely is playing Vader in the suit, Vader out of the suit, because I was a little not worried about that, but I was wondering if that was going to be the case, and it seems like it is, which is awesome. Now, the second big piece of information is Kathleen Kennedy, during the announcement, said that Vader and Obi-Wan are going to have the rematch of the century, or the rematch of a lifetime, which at surface level is incredible, because who wouldn't want to see Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, two of the most iconic characters in pop culture history, duel, but with modern technology. The only times we've seen Vader really fight are during the original trilogy era. Obviously, we got that amazing hallway scene in Rogue One, and that scene in Rogue One is pretty much kind of what we're going to be getting, only like way better. And with Obi-Wan, obviously the best of his duels came during the prequel era, which sometimes could be a little bit over the top and sometimes didn't have the best CGI or anything like that. But you look at the technology that they're using on The Mandalorian, which is going to be the same technology they're using for this show. Vader versus Obi-Wan is going to just be jaw-dropping. It's going to be so epic from a standpoint of being a fan. But when you look at the whole story aspect of it, them dueling again is kind of iffy, because it was always heavily implied that they did not duel between, or even see each other between, Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, because if you remember, in A New Hope, Vader says something along the lines of, "This is a presence I've not felt since," and most people always took that as, the last time that he was in his old master's presence was in Revenge of the Sith, when Obi-Wan left him limbless and, he got all burnt up. And I like it better that way. I find it more poetic, but there are some workarounds here. Some people did mention how in Return of the Jedi, Vader says to Luke, "Obi-Wan once thought as you did," as far as, bringing Anakin back to the light side. And he certainly did think that way in Revenge of the Sith, but some people don't think he really, really tried. And I mean, I guess I could see that, even though I think he was trying the best he could, considering, Anakin was absolutely insane at that point, considering, they were in the heat of this super intense duel. So I think Obi-Wan tried his best, but some people are saying, he could try to venture out and see if he can really bring Anakin back to the light side. So I can see that. A lot of people are saying that in this rematch, it's not going to be a legitimate rematch. It could be some sort of Force vision or nightmare or PTSD that one of them are having, or something along those lines, which would not break any continuity, even though it wouldn't be breaking continuity regardless. It's just sort of how we interpret the vague sayings in A New Hope. But if they were to actually duel, and it was actually Vader and actually Obi-Wan, I think the way to do it would be for them to have a draw. Because if you look at the fight in Revenge of the Sith, Obi-Wan wins. If you look at the fight in A New Hope, obviously it's more of Obi-Wan surrendering to the Force and sort of giving in to the Force. But, you can consider that a win for Vader, because he's alive and Obi-Wan is not. So if they fight to a draw in Kenobi, that could be something like, it could be very balanced, Obi-Wan wins Revenge of the Sith, they draw in Kenobi, Vader wins in A New Hope. And so I think in that sense, and also possibly Obi-Wan venturing out to try to bring Anakin back and playing into the whole Obi-Wan once thought as you did line from Return of the Jedi, it could work. I may not love it because I really like the poetry that exists currently, but I think it'll be really epic regardless, just seeing how awesome it looks, and they could do it in a way that works for me personally. Let me know down in the comments what you think of that. I know there's a lot of fans that, just think it will be absolutely kick-ass, and there's a lot of fans that really don't want to break that continuity. However, as I pointed out on my Twitter page, something I would like to point out right now is that same exact sort of rematch type thing was implied in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and even more heavily so with lines like, "This time we'll do it together," and "My powers have doubled since the last time we met." Obviously, I'm referring to Anakin and Obi-Wan versus Count Dooku. But it was supposed to really imply that they didn't see each other or fight at all in between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. And obviously, after the Clone Wars came out, which is after both of those movies, Count Dooku fights Anakin and Obi-Wan multiple times throughout that show. So if that's something that doesn't bother you and you enjoyed that they fought during the Clone Wars, I think that you should be okay with Vader and Obi-Wan fighting as well. I'm not the biggest fan of Dooku and Anakin fighting in the Clone Wars. So for me, I'm still on the edge about the whole Vader and Obi-Wan thing. But basically what I'm trying to say is just don't be a hypocrite. But anyways, I've been rambling about this whole Vader, Obi-Wan, Hayden thing for too long. But obviously you can tell I'm super excited. And if you know me at all, you know that is 100% the case. I couldn't even type straight on Twitter afterwards when I was tweeting about it because I was just so excited, and I tweeted about it like a million times. I'm sure people were getting really annoyed, but I am hyped beyond belief. Now let's get into some of the other stuff that came out or was announced. Rogue Squadron being the big one. That is a film that's going to be coming out, the next film, in December of 2023, I believe, made by Patty Jenkins, the woman behind Wonder Woman. And I have to say, I think she is absolutely fantastic. I'm not a big DCEU fan. Most of those movies I think are really quite bad. But Wonder Woman was like the one exception. And for the first feature director, the first female feature director for a film in Star Wars, I think Patty Jenkins is absolutely the perfect choice. And I think her style will work wonderfully for Star Wars because she does a great job at showing off locations and how distinct they can be and how beautiful they can be or how ugly they can be. And she does a great job with action as well as unique portrayals of characters, not necessarily playing into stereotypes. So I couldn't be more thrilled. The movie is going to be an adaptation of a very beloved book from Legends in EU called Rogue Squadron. And it's not going to be a direct adaptation because supposedly it is going to take place in a new era. So that's interesting. But the main story beats are going to be the same. And like I said, it is a very beloved book. One of the most beloved books in all of the Star Wars EU. And Patty also said that supposedly her father was a fighter pilot in the military, and she really gained an interest in that and a passion in that. And unfortunately, he passed away serving his country. So she has some really, she has a driving force here in making this movie. So I think she's going to do everything in her power to really try and make the best movie possible. So I'm really excited for it. I really, really am. I know it's not part of like a trilogy and it's not, going to revolve around Jedi and Sith. It's, revolving around like fighter pilots and everything like that. But I think it's going to be similar to like Rogue One. It's not a super big part of like the bigger picture, but I think showing the little guys and the people who sort of make the wheels turn behind, like the rebellion. I don't know what it'll be called in this movie because, like I said, it's a new era. But focusing on the smaller characters, I think is going to be something very interesting. But yes, so there's a lot of people who aren't super excited for it, but I say just wait until we hear more information about it. Wait until we get a trailer. But I couldn't be more excited for that movie. We also have Taika's film obviously coming out. Um, we don't have really any more information about that. We did get some sort of logo, but I don't know if that's going to wind up being the logo for the movie. It just says Star Wars, but it's some like weird sideways blue and purpley looking Star Wars logo. And I don't know if his film is going to be part of a trilogy or what. Like, we just don't have really any information about that yet. But I am still excited. I like Taika. I think he's funny. I liked his episodes of The Mandalorian. I was a huge fan of Jojo Rabbit. And I'm really interested to see what he has to offer. Now on to The Bad Batch. We've known about this for a while, obviously, but we finally got a trailer, and I predicted we would. A lot of people didn't think we would get a trailer, but we did. One of the only trailers we got to see, actually it's the only actual trailer that came out, but there were a few sizzle reels that also came out. A couple of them we didn't get to see, only the investors did, and a couple of them the entire audience was able to. But this is the only legitimate trailer that came out, and man, it looks fantastic. I wasn't a huge fan of The Bad Batch when I saw that first arc in the Clone Wars Season 7, but thinking about this as a concept, these defective clones who, to me, like they serve justice. They take justice into their own hands. Like, they don't really follow the Republic per se. And when the Empire takes over, I don't think they're going to follow them either. I'm interested to see how they're going to rebel, because I don't think that, they're going to be antagonists. They're the good guys. They are the characters who we're going to follow in this series. So I think they're going to wind up rebelling against the Empire, whether that is because, perhaps Echo knows about Order 66 and he has them remove their chips, or maybe their chips malfunction because they're defective clones. I think that's probably a better route, because Echo knowing would kind of create some plot holes. But I think them being just this small faction of clones, out on their own, fighting against the Empire. And this is going to take place like right during Order 66 and like right after Revenge of the Sith. So the rebellion will be very, very small at this point. So they're going to be pretty much on their own for the most part. I think they're going to be kind of like Saw Gerrera's band of rebels. They're more, they're not like terrorists like Saw Gerrera's band of rebels are called, but they're really on their own. I think that's a really cool thing. The character Hunter supposedly is based off of Billy from Predator, and that's kind of what these guys remind me of, is the characters from Predator, just like this super special elite force of fighters. They're not necessarily fighting for a specific military or government. They're just out on their own. I think that's really cool. The animation looked amazing. It looked even way better than Season 7 of the Clone Wars, which I'm sure you guys remember. That even looked fantastic. So I was just blown away by the animation, and it even more so wants me... I really want them to go back and reanimate the Clone Wars with just how amazing it looks now. Like, the early days of the Clone Wars, the animation looked pretty bad, but it looks so fantastic now. They've come such a long ways. The music in this trailer was awesome. Fennec Shand appeared. They used Ian McDermott's voice, actually, in a scene where he was talking about, they're forming a galactic empire. That was from Revenge of the Sith, and it had all the clones lined up, and Palpatine was just on this gigantic screen. That was a really awesome moment in the trailer. There's a lot of people who are huge Clone Wars fans that are super excited for this, but there are some people who are just like, it's just another Star Wars show. These characters aren't particularly big characters. Well, it may not have the sort of impact that shows like the Clone Wars have, because it had, Anakin and Obi-Wan, those characters. I think that the Bad Batch, from like an artistic standpoint, might wind up being the best show in all of Star Wars. Well, outside of the Obi-Wan show, but we'll have to see how that goes. Which, by the way, even though I already talked about this, I forgot to mention, literally today I found out that one of the writers on board, I think he's doing the screenplay, is the guy that wrote the screenplay for the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, which that movie is absolutely fantastic. It's almost universally beloved. It's super highly critically acclaimed, so I think that is just a fantastic person to bring on board for this. And Ryan Gosling in that movie could be somewhat similar to Hayden, kind of quiet and kind of, similar facial expressions. And so I think the way he wrote Ryan Gosling in that movie, even though Hayden's going to be Vader and Anakin likely, I think that he'll do a good job writing for Hayden Christensen. But back to, obviously, I was commenting on The Bad Batch. I pretty much said everything about that was on my mind, but I think it's going to be great, and I think a lot of people aren't anticipating how great it's going to be. Next show we got is the show Acolyte, which is the female-centric show by Leslie Headland. Supposedly, it's set at the end of the High Republic, like 100 or 200 years before the Phantom Menace. And I've heard words thrown around like spy thriller having to do with dark side powers and things like that. It sounds really interesting. We certainly have to get more information on it because this is one of the first shows or like things that's really exploring a new era for Star Wars. So we really don't know what it's going to turn out to be like, but it really does sound interesting, and I'm excited to see how that's going to turn out. Next, we have Visions, which is a 2D cartoon, which I think is great because as cool as the 3D animation for, the Clone Wars and Rebels and Bad Batch and whatnot is, I've always had a little bit of a gripe with it because the lightsaber fights in 3D animation just don't look right to me. Like the lightsabers swoop in this really weird way, so I was never able to enjoy the lightsaber fighting in the Clone Wars or Rebels or any of those. It was more so the plot lines and like the blaster fighting. I could enjoy that. But in a 2D show, I think it could be really cool. So I really hope that they focus on Jedi and Sith or whatnot. It's supposed to be an anthology series, so perhaps every episode is going to be different, or perhaps it's every season. But they're bringing some of the best anime creators out there on board for this, which I think is really cool. I'm a big anime fan. Well, I wouldn't say I'm a big anime fan, but the big animes that are out there, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Death Note, things like that, I was a big fan of. So it'll be really interesting to see Star Wars adapt to this anime style. And I don't know who out there has seen the 2003 Clone Wars made by Genndy Tartakovsky, but that was in a very similar fashion to anime-styled things, and I loved that. I think it was fantastic. So I think anime and Star Wars will blend really, really well. Next, we've got the show Rangers of the New Republic, which we don't know a whole lot about, but it's seemingly taking place in the same time period as The Mandalorian. Some people speculate this could be the show that Cara Dune was supposed to get. Some people speculate that it could have to do with characters kind of like Dave Filoni's character in The Mandalorian. Just sort of showing us how the Republic is sort of being created after the Empire is defeated in Return of the Jedi, which I think is a neat concept. It's sort of lower on my list of what I'm excited to see out of all of this newer announced content, but they could certainly do some interesting things with it, and I will be watching it for sure. A lot of people say that they'd like to see Cobb Vanth in it. He's a marshal, and that kind of sounds, he's like a ranger of the New Republic. I think that'd be fantastic because I absolutely loved Cobb Vanth. A lot of people are now saying that Bill Burr's character Mayfeld perhaps could show up, which I would love. I thought he was fantastic in this latest episode of The Mandalorian. So there's potential here for sure. Like I said, it's lower on my list, but I'm absolutely going to be watching it, and I think there is some interesting things that they could do. Next, we've got the Cassian Andor show, which we've all known about for a long time. But this show is something that, for whatever reason, a lot of people aren't particularly excited about, and I don't understand why. When I was watching a Star Wars Theory video, he put this as perfectly as I could imagine. He said, listen, look, do you like Rogue One? Which most people will say yes, it's like, the original trilogy, but with modern technology. If you liked Rogue One, you will like this show. You don't have to like Cassian Andor. I mean, he's a pretty mediocre character in my opinion. But this show isn't going to be just about him. It's about the rebellion and how, it's going at the Empire and just this era of Star Wars that we all love so much. And I think it's going to be really cool to see again with modern technology. I know I keep saying that, but back when the originals were made, as fantastic as they are, some of the greatest movies ever, they didn't have the advantage of having this amazing CGI and special effects. When the prequels came out, they were super heavy on special effects, and they aren't as good as they are now. And so I think really getting to see essentially what Rogue One is, and some of the things we love about the original trilogy so much in this Cassian Andor show is just going to be great. I really, really do, and I think people are sleeping on this show big time. Next, we've got the Lando show that was announced. My assumption, and what I've seen other people say as well, is that this show will have both Billy D. Williams and Donald Glover. It'll likely be told from the perspective of an older Lando, likely post The Rise of Skywalker, which, while I don't really like the sequels, I don't think it would tie into the sequel trilogy too much. And even if it did, it's about the stories of him from the past. So I think he'll be kind of reflecting on his old stories, perhaps telling them to, some younger people, or just recalling them in his own mind. Billy D. Williams will likely be narrating or something like that. And then Donald Glover will obviously be acting out the action sequences and the old adventures that he had. And I think that's awesome. Quick note, though, on some of these shows. Actually, you know what? I'll save this for after I make this next sort of review or whatever. The Ahsoka show, that was announced, and that's one of the big ones, one of the top 4 that I'm most excited for. I don't know why I didn't comment on this earlier, because like I said, it's one of the bigger ones, and I have this list in front of me right now. I'm sort of going down the list, and that was towards the top, and for some reason I think I skipped right over it. But Rosario Dawson is coming back to reprise her role as Ahsoka. It's going to be a limited series. Kathleen Kennedy did not say this, but on the official Star Wars website, it says it's a limited series. My guess, especially after the comments by Dave Filoni just recently saying that her appearance in the Mandalorian episode could be before the epilogue in Star Wars Rebels, my guess is that this show will take place in between her appearance in the Mandalorian and her appearance at the end of Star Wars Rebels. As you likely know, at the end of Rebels, she appears to Sabine Wren, and we all assume that she's going to try and find Ezra. And if you notice, she's wearing a white robe at that point. Dave Filoni has always likened her to Gandalf, who, as if you know Lord of the Rings, he goes through this transformation. He starts off as Gandalf the Grey, and then after a huge battle and after gaining so much experience and wisdom and fighting tooth and nail, he comes out Gandalf the White. And Ahsoka in The Mandalorian was wearing gray robes, and at the end of Rebels, she's wearing a white robe. So I'm assuming this limited series is going to take place after her appearance in The Mandalorian, but before the epilogue of Rebels, likely leading up to the Rebels sequel, which I don't know if it will be animated. I really hope that it is. I know a lot of people want to see it in live action. But to me, as great as The Mandalorian looks, it still can't quite capture the amazing scale that the movies did as far as, just how everything looks. And with how much is going on at this time period after Return of the Jedi with the characters from Rebels like Sabine and Ezra and Hera, with characters from the Clone Wars like Rex and Ahsoka, and with all of the original trilogy characters like Luke, Han, and Leia, I think animated is the way to go. because it's also, it would be weird to see other people playing like Luke, Han, and Leia in live action. The reason we love characters like Ahsoka and Rex and Ezra is because of their animated portrayals. And animated shows just can flesh things out so much more, in Star Wars at least, because obviously we have Rebels and the Clone Wars, and we can compare that to The Mandalorian. I like The Mandalorian. I was heavily critical of it in season 1, and I'm still critical of it in season 2, even though I enjoy season 2 much, much more than season 1. But it just can't flesh things out as much as it should because the production costs are just so high. They can only do so much with it. And I think animated is definitely the way to go if they really want to flesh out the story and the scale of that time period. But yeah, so this Ahsoka show, likely in between her Mandalorian appearance and the end of Rebels. And then finally, we've got a droid story, I believe is what it is called. Supposedly, it is the lead character is a new droid, and he's being guided by R2-D2 and C-3PO. I don't know a whole lot about this. It definitely seems like a show directed more towards children. It's not something I'm super excited for, but I will be watching it. I will. I'll give it a watch, but if I realize it's something kind of like Star Wars Resistance, which I do not like at all, never have finished, I've only seen like a couple episodes, then I'll probably tune out. But, with so much other great content coming out, obviously they're going to make some things like this aimed at different audiences, but it could be interesting. Who knows? And then the one thing that was not announced that took some by surprise is the Boba Fett show, which everyone who are, credible leakers and people that give us Star Wars rumors when Star Wars isn't giving us actual info, everyone says that this Boba Fett show is filming literally right now, and some of these shows that they announced aren't even doing that yet. So it's weird that they didn't announce that. Supposedly, from these, leakers that I'm talking about and from what I've heard, which, by the way, I've, really sorted over the years through the BS and who's credible. Guys like the Kessel Run Transmission guys and LRM are pretty credible. People like Mike Zero, people like Screen Rant, We Got This Covered, Comic Book News, not so much. But, you have to make up your own mind on that. The guys I mentioned that are credible have been proven right time and time again, and this Disney Investors Day really sort of upped their credibility, which I think is great. Yeah, so according to all of them, this Boba Fett show is filming literally right now, and it's weird that they didn't announce that. But on top of that, supposedly we're getting, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe they said 5 more animated shows on top of, what they already announced, and I think 2 movies. I'll double check on that, and, after I post this video, I might make a comment underneath the video saying what the correct number is, but it's more than was announced at the Disney Investors thing. That's great news to hear as well. It really makes me wonder what else they have in store, and I wish they would have told us, but, I'm so happy with the announcements that they did give us that, I'm looking forward to the future of Star Wars. One thing that they didn't announce was Rian Johnson's trilogy. Now, if you know me, you know that I do not like The Last Jedi at all. It really broke the sequel trilogy for me and made me not want to see the sequels in my personal headcanon. But I'm not going to gloat or anything like that. I don't want Rian Johnson near Star Wars ever again, but I know there are fans of his who were really disappointed by that and wanted to see what else he could make. And I know how I would feel if, Hayden Christensen didn't come back to Star Wars as Anakin or Vader. That was the thing that I was really looking forward to, and if I never got that, I would have been really disappointed. So I can understand where these fans of Rian Johnson's may be sort of coming from or how they're feeling. But yeah, I personally don't want to see him back in Star Wars, but I'm sorry for you fans of his that didn't get the announcement you were hoping for. Hopefully, there is some content out there that you're really excited for, though. There's lots of stuff out there, things that I wasn't even anticipating, or even that I wasn't even looking forward to all that much before Disney Investors Day, that I'm now so much excited for. The Bad Batch, I didn't really care for that at all until the trailer hit, and now I'm thinking about it 24/7. Had no idea Patty Jenkins was making a film, and now I'm absolutely that's another thing I'm thinking about 24/7. So they gave us some really good pieces of content. I'm not a sequel fan, as I mentioned, and but this is a step in the right direction. I do want to say, however, there's people out there who are like, it's prequel fans who wanted Hayden Christensen back and they got him, and now they're praising Kathleen Kennedy, even though they hated on her for the sequels for so long. Look, it's this simple. I'm very excited for what's coming next. There's some anti-Disney fans that aren't. I personally just take content as we get it. I like it if I like it. I don't if I don't. It's not a George Lucas or Disney thing. I don't just like all of it. I don't just hate all of it. But all is not forgiven just because, I got something that I really wanted to see. It's certainly a step in the right direction, but I have not forgotten how the sequels turned out. That's just me personally. I'm not going to go after anybody or be super intense about it, but all is not forgiven just because I got the content that I wanted to see. But regardless, guys, so much news came out. I hope everybody got something they're looking forward to, whether it's Hayden coming back and Kenobi, whether it's The Bad Batch, whether it's, these movies that are coming out, either Taika's or Patty's film. There's a lot of people really excited to see Donald Glover back as Lando Calrissian. So hopefully there's something out there for everyone. That is something Kathleen did mention in her, I don't know what to call it, while she was speaking and making all these announcements, is that hopefully that there's something for everyone, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Let me know what you guys thought of this Disney Investors Day down in the comments below. And let me know what you think of these other potential shows that are coming out, what you think they are, or these other potential movies. I'll have to double check the numbers, like I said, but there's even more content they're currently developing that they did not give to us. But yeah, guys, crazy, crazy news, and I can't tell you how excited I am. Star Wars is back, baby, or at least hopefully. But yeah, that's about all I got for today, guys. Thank you for sticking with me if you watched this whole video. I know it's a long one, but it's been a minute since I made a video, and there was just so much stuff. I figured I would sort of let this one go on for a little bit and hang out with you guys. Yeah, but thanks for watching, and I will catch you next time.